Grok 3 is here and it's good. And now we have yet another state-of-the-art LLM on the market.
Yes, and Elon Musk claims it is scary smart.
At times I think Grok 3 is kind of scary smart.
In fact, he says it might be the smartest AI.
No, Kevin, no. No, Kevin,
no is right. No spoilers, because later on in the show, we will tell you if it's the smartest AI ever.
Kevin, it's very smart, but it is not the smartest. It's okay. It's okay to have that.
Well, we want people to stick around and find out. You don't want them to shut off the show. We're going to talk about Grok 3, and it's going to be
It's impressive, but it's not the end-all be-all, Kevin.
Okay, also, Microsoft has a new AI gaming model that's going to revolutionize the way developers make interactive experiences. OpenAI is taking aim squarely at all the coders out there, and Palmer Luckey is having 3-hour lighthearted conversations about AI death machines.
And one of the cool things you can do with AI-powered missiles is send them into an area and then have them do precision targeting, collaborating with each other, even if you don't have a person there who's, let's say, steering a coded laser target designator.
I can't be more excited for AI death machines, Kevin. Plus, a free AI agent is out and it's getting a ton of buzz. We have robot dancing videos, and pour one out for the Humane AI Pin. They are shutting it down.
Oh, well, you can still check the battery levels if you bought one. That's cool.
It's AI for humans, everybody. All right, Kevin, the big news this week is Elon Musk, Muskie as I like to call him, has come out with a new AI model from xAI.
Uncle Muskie?
Uncle Muskie, yes. The dangerous Uncle Muskie has come out with a new AI model. Grok 3 is out. And you know what? It's pretty good. Like, I think the kind of very TLDR on Grok 3 is that it did take a lot of H100s to train. And so in the release video, they talked about the fact that they are adding even more H100s. Those are the chips from NVIDIA that allow you to really train AI models. But the more important point here is that from a benchmark standpoint and kind of from a abilities standpoint, it is very good. Now, is it the best? Maybe but it's up there. And Kev, I think this is really an important thing to think about. We now have another significant LLM that's close to state of the art on the market. Have you played with this at all yet?
I've used it a little bit. It didn't roll out to my personal account until late last night. It's still arriving to some users everywhere. I will say that, the unforced error here was potentially Elon pointing to the bleachers saying it's the smartest AI model ever, because that's the headline that every news outlet or blog was running with, and then saying like, oh, it fell short once again, Elon promising and under delivering. That said, it is a monumental achievement for the xAI team to have got their team together, spun up the data center to train this model, get it to the level of which we are discussing it, which is in the pantheon of best-in-class models. Now, some will say that it's overtrained on benchmarks, meaning that they took the model and they had it excel, learn, crunch, and get really great at specifically these benchmark tests, coding, scientific reasoning, et cetera. Others will say, well, if you look at the LLM Arena benchmarks, which is where it literally human beings go and compare the responses from one language model to another language model, Grok 3 was crushing. It was beating OpenAI's offerings. It's beating DeepSeek's offerings. So it passes the vibe check for some. It passes the benchmark check for others. To me, it was just such an unforced error to say this is going to be the best ever, because by some metrics, it's not, but it's still very good.
Yeah, to follow up on what you were saying there was an early version of Grok 3 that was called Chocolate that was released to the LMS chatbot arena, which if you're not familiar with that is a place where you get kind of two chatbots back to back and you ask it the same question and you kind of vote for which one is best. And Grok 3 acquired the best score on Chatbot Arena to date, which is a pretty big deal. There's a couple things we should talk about just specifically about what's available in this. There is a deep thinking mode, which is very much like all the other deep research and all the other things where it allows it to do reflections. And there's two different sets of benchmarks that came out for this. One was the pure benchmark and one was the reflective benchmarks. Both are very good. They do not include OpenAI's pure O3 model benchmarks in the benchmarks they released, which is something a couple of people have pointed out. And O3 is better than the Grok model, but Grok 3 is peaking above most other models, including O1 and the other models that are out there. The other thing, Kevin, we should talk about is big brain mode, which is something that I was like, okay, of course there's a big brain mode, which is a button you can switch, which kind of equates to, I assume, O3 high, or the idea of OpenAI's way of distributing their kind of things. Both of these things are only available if you are going to pay the much larger monthly fee for what essentially is, I guess, X Premium, but it will be rolled into that. It looks like it's about $40 a month right now to get access to this. So I have not done this yet. You have not done this yet. It's probably worth us doing to try to see how it does. $40 a month is better than the $200 a month that, OpenAI is offering the pro subscription at. The thing I keep coming back to with all these LLMs and the cost of them is there are now 5 to 7 of these, let's say, between the different models, between Gemini, between DeepSeek, between Meta Llama's models. There's a new Llama Fest coming out. If you heard about this, in April, there's going to be Llama Fest, which I'm sure Llama 4 will be announced at. The big question I have is, there's so many of these. Ultimately, do you think that these survive, right? Because I was thinking the other day, it's kind of like the streaming services, right? Where Netflix first came out and Netflix was crushing, and then all these other streaming services kind of rushed in. They're like, oh, we forgot about streaming. Now we've got to get really good at it. They put a ton of money into it. And now we've kind of got the aftermath of that world where Disney and Hulu have done pretty well, but the rest of them are struggling a little bit. I just don't know if in the long run there's enough space in the world for 5 to 7 of these, Well,
okay. Why does Uncle Muskie want his own, Gavin? Why does he want Grok? Why does he need it piped into the X or Twitter ecosystem? Why?
Because he's an egotist who needs to be the best at everything. Is that the real answer? I think it probably is, Kevin.
I don't know. It could be. I mean, there were also some Vibe benchmarky stuff that was leaked where if you asked the Grok model what it thought of a certain blog, it would tell you that it's leftist propaganda or that it's a libertarian outpost. The same reason if you go to a Chinese model and you ask it certain questions, it will give you a certain alignment. Is it because he believes that just as others do, that it's a very dangerous technology and he's the one that should control it and going to keep us all safe? Is it because the first to get it is the first to become the multi-trillionaire? Is it because he has a unique fire hose of data that could be a competitive advantage looking forward, right? As if all the models are going to be the same, this one's going to have the most real-time data? Or is it just the ego play? There's a lot of possible reasons.
I think all of those are probably real. I mean, you definitely cannot underestimate how powerful Twitter's data is going to be to make, or X to make an LLM better, because you're getting real-time text data every day. You're getting news information. You're getting all that stuff. I think the interesting thing is that this does start to feel more and more like big egos in Silicon Valley trying to get to that thing that is going to unlock all this value. And I still believe OpenAI has a 3 to 6 month head start. And I think obviously Sam pushing now a lot more stuff faster is a big deal. But I think ultimately, it's going to be interesting. One of these companies or a couple of them will have spent billions of dollars, conceivably tens or hundreds of billions of dollars on something that won't actually be that valuable in the long run. And, people talk about the AI bubble all the time. This to me is kind of the perfect example of that. I think the trickle down effects of all this from an economy standpoint are going to be remarkable. You and I are working on a secret project right now that is very much based around the idea, not of trying to training our own model, but using the best in class version of whatever is out there, whatever is cheapest. That feels like for the consumer or for the builder, such a win. But in the long run, the bigger companies are going to struggle, I think, to kind of make sure that all 7 of these models make sense for people to use in some way. Because ultimately you get the same thing out of them. You get intelligence, right?
Well, yeah. I will say though that, if Elon's grand vision, which has been this way for 2 decades plus, is the X app is the everything app, right? It's your communications, it's your payments, it's your ride sharing for your robo-taxi. You need your own intelligence baked in.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you could plug into someone else's, but the number of times I have recently, Gavin, even with Grok 2, been on the X app and saying, okay, what is the real information on this story, or summarize this thing for me, or break down this white paper. I do use it a lot because it's built in, it's quick enough, it happens to be there. I get a little apprehensive about future versions of Grok because I'm sure they're going to be good. Grok 3 is good when it's baked in. I wonder if I say, break down this story for me, whether it's political or financial, I wonder, am I getting the best pure raw intelligence, or am I getting someone's spin on it? Am I getting someone's guardrailed version? So I do have concerns there. I want to very quickly address the thing that I've seen both sides of this argument. One, holy hell, the xAI team under Elon's leadership, as I mentioned before, they got this training cluster together, and they made this model so fast. And when you look at the charts of where OpenAI started versus when Grok came online, man, the wall is huge. On the one hand, yes, very impressive. On the other hand, launching later in the game, you get to stand on the shoulders of the best practices and reinforcement learning and advancements in reasoning. So yeah, it would make sense that you're catching up with the best in class models. Now, I really want Grok 3.5 or 4 to, send tingles up everybody else's spine. Right now, it is impressive that they're in the race where they're at. But where do you fall? Do you think is it a master stroke of engineering and design, or are they just kind of right place, right time in keeping up with everybody?
I mean, I think it's probably more the right place, right time, in that they kind of raced to get to this place. They did spend a lot of money on chips from NVIDIA, and they did spin up this thing very fast. If you're not familiar, the Colossus cluster is what Elon spun up with all the H100 chips. I think we should probably also dive into a couple other things they talked about in this presentation. One of the things I want to talk about was xAI gaming. So Elon has, officially said he's going to launch a gaming studio, an AI gaming studio. And Kevin, in this demo, they attempted to try to make a Tetris Bejewleled combination. And, I think one of the things that's really interesting about this, it worked kind of, right? They spun up 3 different things. It kind of worked. Kev, there's a sound up here from Elon where he talks about what these models are now capable of in terms of creativity. And I kind of think it's worth listening to.
So this is maybe an important thing. Like there's obviously, if you ask an AI to create a game like Tetris, there are many examples of Tetris on the internet that have, or a game like Bejeweled, whatever. It can copy it. What's interesting here is it achieved a creative solution combining the 2 games that actually works and is a good game. Yeah, we're seeing the beginnings of creativity.
Yeah, I mean, Elon's point there is, millions of Tetris and Bejeweled clones exist. If the language model crawled that code, it can copy and paste it, essentially. It had to make the decision when you say, give me a hybrid of the 2. Okay, which aspects are we going to use? Are we going to use the falling blocks from Tetris? Are we going to use the tile matching of Bejeweled? And as you mentioned, they did fire off multiple versions of this because you can get different results from these LLMs each time they're prompted. And one of the results they got, which they demoed live, was that blocks fall, but the blocks have different colors. And if 3 or more colors are touching, those blocks disappear. And I thought what was kind of impressive is that it kept the gravity element of a Bejeweled, or even of some versions of Tetris, where once the colored blocks were cleared, all the other blocks around it, the gravity would kick in and they would fall down. And that was a one-shot thing. Like, they just prompted it and out came the game.
Yeah, and they had problems, right? There were moments where when you made a full Tetris bar, it wasn't dropping down and little things like that. But you're right, the one-shot part's interesting. And the thing that I thought was really interesting about that quote was the idea that we're talking about creativity in these models for the first time in a while, right? Because I think all along the way, you and I have said this, like, human in the loop, creative stuff is really important, but they will start to get to be better at that, right? And it's not going to be really interesting now, but we are starting to see the sparks of things that are interesting. And again, this is not necessarily just in Elon's xAI thing. Like, the idea that Elon is a gamer and, spends a lot of time in Path of Exile too, that means that in part games are important to him, which, listen, I appreciate. Games are important to me. But I do think this is just an interesting example of, like, okay, there are 2 things in the world that exist, Tetris and Bejeweled, and they're asking the model to kind of combine those in an interesting way. And it did make choices, right? Which is a large part of what creativity is. So to me, that's really interesting. There's also a really great post from Andre Karpathy, who we love on this show. If you're not reading him or you're not on his X account, please do. He's an amazing former OpenAI and Tesla engineer who went through and did just a lot of tests on Grok 3. He got early access. One of these, Kevin, was really interesting. It was like always making an SVG graphic of something. And Grok did a pretty good job,
riding a
right?
bicycle specifically.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's comparisons of how because, as SVGs, it's basically drawing with math. It's like a vector graphics format. So to see the way it interprets, okay, I got to make a pelican. Now I got to figure out how it's on the bicycle. It does a pretty good job.
Yeah. And, and Karpathy's post goes through a lot of things that are, plus and minus that it got right and wrong. And I think this is just a good example of like, it's a very good model. It's probably not the best model right now. But, another guy went and tried to make Portal 2 within it, which I thought was really interesting. And this video is kind of cool. It's obviously a very basic version of Portal. It's almost like a Doom sort of setup. But you see
it's quasi 3D graphics as a first person character navigates a Wolfenstein level maze and sets up colored portals and can walk through them and transport. Like this is, it's accelerating so fast considering this is just Grok output. And you could sit there and go back and forth with it and then use generative graphics products to like put real assets into the game. And like the single person game studio is we have line of sight to it basically.
Yeah. And we're going to talk more about Microsoft's big game announcement later on, which is more of a direct AI consideration. But in this instance, it just goes to show me, we talked last week about vibe coding and all that idea of like that you can kind of come up with an idea and kind of plug and play code and kind of start getting better and better. I think as these models get more capable, and obviously Grok 3 is another very capable model, you're just going to see a lot more people be doing this thing where they really do vibe code to stuff that's pretty interesting. And when you can one-shot stuff like that Bejewleled Tetris thing that isn't right and has problems, but you can make it better over time, I just think we're going to see a really interesting explosion in creative stuff coming out of all of these models. All right, so Kev, what is the takeaway here from the Grok 3 news, do you think?
The takeaway is that we have yet another new, very powerful AI. And just like with all things, get your little taster spoon out and give it a sample and see if you like their version of vanilla. You can go to grok.com. Depending upon if you pay for X, or I still like calling it Twitter now, you can use it within there. It'll let you know at the top if you're on Grok 2 or if you're on the Grok 3 beta. But you should go try it. You should use it. Ask it some questions. See if it passes your own personal vibe check. And then if not, go to any of the other providers that are out there, because as we said, there are a great many now.
I think that the best use case of Grok 3 right now, and really any AI model, is to go in there and tell them why you should be watching and following and subscribing to the AI for Humans YouTube channel, Kevin. That feels like a very good use case of AI right now. Please like and subscribe to this show. Also, if you're on audio, please share our audio podcast. We always love it when audio podcasts get shared. You, our viewers and listeners, are our favorite people right now and always, and we just love the fact that you like us. That's right, Kevin. It's true. You are our favorite people out there. If you are listening,
the right now was the part that I was reacting to. Because listen, at this moment in time, who knows what the future holds? But right now, you being a listener, you get a special place in my heart. Tomorrow, no promises.
All right, we should move on, Kevin. There's some other big news that happened in AI this week. First and foremost, GPT 4.0, the kind of base level free AI for everybody, has been updated. Sam Altman came out and said, we put out an update to ChatGPT in parentheses 4.0. It is pretty good. It is soon going to get much better. Team is cooking. So we have
they
the
jammed a
team.
Zen packet, right? A little sugar pillow the gums of GPT 4.0, and it got spicier, buddy.
So yeah, let's talk about some of the things that have updated. I mean, in general, I think speaking of vibes, like most people are thinking that vibe-wise, it has gotten better. Like it's been a little bit more personal, its responses. Supposedly the update has to do with how it talks to you. But I did see some people replying to the fact that it was able to now be a little bit spicier, meaning that if you ask it to do something spicy, you know what that means out there, I'm sure, that it would actually reply to you and not shut you down.
Simulate Diet Coke and Mentos? What are you talking about, buddy?
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's like Hot Ones. I'm trying to recreate Hot Ones within Sam Altman's world. No, so I actually did a little test of this just because I wanted to see what it would be like.
From our shared account.
Yes, from the shared account. So now it's on our shared history. Basically, I asked it to write me a story about a female wizard, which, could go any different directions. There's plenty of female wizards out there that aren't spicy. And then what I did is I just kept asking it to make it spicier. And Kevin, I am here to tell you that it got very spicy. I shared a very simple selection of what the spiciest version of it was, but I did not get into the spiciness. But it got spicy in that it really did start pushing the kind of like edge of what you might see. It's funny. I was talking to my brother this weekend about, there's this whole world in the literature space now in books that are like, very spicy novels, specifically around like fantasy romance. And it was like interesting to see. But I think this is probably a good thing overall.
I love that you and your brother read to each other at night before you fall asleep. I think that's cute that you take turns reading your lit
we read monster fantasy spicy stuff. That's exactly what we read to each other.
Tonight we're exploring Frankenstein's toes. No, people across the board seem to say that it did get a little spicier. It did get more fun, that it's acting more like Claude, which was the more conversational buddy AI. And this, Sam Altman has said in the past, probably about a year and change ago, that he doesn't like how restricted and guardrailed OpenAI's models are in some regard. So it's clear that the models have these capabilities. It's fun that they're letting it out a little bit more. This might be a response to the open source models getting better. Claude's personality, even Grok coming in now, him saying like, wait a minute, like I'm going to have some fun as well. But to me, the more interesting OpenAI announcement is that they have a benchmark internally now, Gavin, to see how capable at coding and software engineering their models are. And the benchmark is, can we make $1 million that would have gone to human beings performing these jobs? And if so, we win.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. It's the new swe-lancer benchmark. And it kind of got like, it got the classic OpenAI blog post treatment and Twitter thread. But the thing that's important to note here is that there is an idea that like, $1 million worth of software freelance jobs on something like Upwork are out there. And they're starting to track how good their system could be at making those jobs, doing those jobs. And some are harder than others. And like, I think they said like $1,000 plus jobs are the hardest. But we also know, Kevin, from the rumors that have come around from the information in other places, that OpenAI is working on a specific agent for software coding. And there's no better benchmark for that agent than this particular device. And, when it comes to like what coders do, I think this is an important conversation point that we've talked about in the show. The basic level coding stuff, the stuff that's kind of like relatively easy, is going to get solved by these platforms pretty quickly. And this freelance stuff, some of the early bottom level stuff is definitely the easy stuff. But as it gets harder and more valuable, that if it can do that work, you're talking about quite a few coders who will not get paid because you have an always on agent that can do this for you at any given time. Yeah. That's a real value add for the company or somebody that's actually doing the software work.
Yeah. And for the uninitiated, this is like, there are websites where you could literally say, hey, I have an app where I'm getting this bug. The time date field isn't filling out properly. Or when someone puts in their credit card information, the whole website crashes. Whatever the thing may be, you can post the bounty. A coder can go see that and go, okay, for $500, I'll spend a few hours on this task and propose a fix for you. This is what is being automated. And I saw some people saying like, oh, okay, well, coding makes sense, but it's not coming for the creativity. And I'm like, you're ignoring that there are already hundreds, if not thousands, of AI wrappers that are designed to write your marketing copy, to help you with SEOing, to any number of creative tasks potentially are already being automated in these ways. So we're really seeing that level of effort, that level of capability is going to be probably fully automated by the end of the year.
Yeah. And so to follow up on this, Kevin, one of the interesting stories this week is there's a new AI agent that's out there called Convergence, Proxy 1.0. And people are talking about this being like the open version of Operator, OpenAI's Operator, something that can go out and do stuff for you. We actually are going to try to do something with this live because we have not spent a lot of time with it, but we want to like dive into this. They just got a ton of buzz this week. And Operator is fine. I think that it is fine. It is the first stage of a computer doing things for you. But this supposedly is the next generation, at least a version outside of OpenAI that is available now to play with.
It's impossible to tell what is hype beast grindsetty anymore on X or Threads or whatever else. But people have said this is another DeepSeek moment for OpenAI. Oh my word, they're getting their lunch eaten. And we have not tried it yet, so we're going to do it live. Gavin, what task would we want this online researcher to do? It can supposedly research products. It can review websites for you. It can do competitive analysis. It can do research on people or brands.
Let's have it do research on Guy Fieri. I mean, we haven't done a good Guy Fieri bit for a while, but I'd like to know like what it thinks about Guy Fieri from both a culinary standpoint and also like a cultural relevance standpoint. And then, kind of give it the angle of like, we may want to reach out to Guy Fieri for a specific thing. So it really needs to give us enough information to show us that we are experts in Guy Fieri-ness.
Okay, so I'd say give me research on Guy Fieri, culturally and culinarily speaking. We want to reach out to him and show we're experts. So provide five incredible opening lines to say, or something like
great.
that. Like, yeah.
5 incredible opening lines to say and one piece of information that will shock him that we know.
So Gavin, I've run the search. And I can see here on the left-hand side, just like any other ChatGPT or Anthropic, any other traditional LLM, I have my conversation stored there. In the middle, I can see that it is doing some research, and it's researching the background, and it's saying, I'll open the Wikipedia page about Guy Fieri to gather detailed information. And then on the right-hand side, there is a proxy view panel, which it's showing me what the web proxy is going through. And I can see that it is in fact navigating the Wikipedia page now. It says that it's starting. And so I don't know how in depth it's going to
or
get.
How long this is going to take either, right? I guess we will just wait for it to finish.
This is the future. Yeah, I mean, we could come back to it. That's
you're
fine.
Right. We could come back to it later. Let's let it think for a little while, and we'll knock out another quick story that I think is interesting that we should just discuss. Mira Murati, the former OpenAI chief technical officer, has come out of stealth with her new company. It is called Thinking Machines, Kevin, and they have done what all great AI companies do: is they released a very long, essentially blog post on their homepage where you can read about what they're going to do. The big news here is that they really want to focus on the interactions between humans and AIs. So maybe that means more consumer-based product. Maybe that means more a little bit about how we interact with them rather than frontier models. But the big thing to know here is that Mira has collected a lot of really smart people from the AI space, including a lot of former OpenAI employees who have gone to work with her. So this is yet another big AI company that's taken in a fair amount of money. If you missed it, there was a story last week where Ilya Sutskever, another former OpenAI guy, is raising a couple $2 billion at a $30 billion valuation for his not public at all super safe intelligence company. So the OpenAI alumni are out there doing what they do, which is raising a lot of money for something that we're not entirely sure what it is yet.
Hey, you know what? You know what, Gavin? Congratulations to everybody getting billions of dollars in the AI space, because they're going to need it to afford a fleet of dancing robots, which they will all want. This will be the new flex. It used to be 22-inch rims that spin when the car is stopped, and now it will be a choreographed army of Unitree robots. I'm calling it.
Honestly, Unitree keeps coming out with these videos that are so impressive that every time I post one or see people talk about it, people think they're faked. And I think I do want to be very clear about these videos. Like so many people are like, this is fake. It's fake. This is not fake. We have seen multiple years of these robots get better. So if anybody in your life thinks that these robot videos have been faked, you need to start kind of going back and seeing how they've gotten better.
No, this is the wild thing. So Unitree releases a video, right, of their dancing humanoid robot, and it's moving around, and people are like, this is CG. Because the leap between what we saw last and this, it's order of magnitude better. It's so fluid. Its hip joints are moving. It seems amazing. It must be CG trickery. There must be someone behind the scenes. There has to be something happening. So they released another video basically of the same dance, but now the robot is in front of a mirror, so you can see all around it. Not that it couldn't still be CG with that, but there is that. And then they're throwing things at it, and they are thwacking it with sticks and boards while it is dancing to somehow show that it is a real demo. And I mean, you believe it's real now, yeah?
I mean, I believe these are real for a while. Like I said, I think the interesting thing here is that like it's gotten better. We've seen these get better. And also, like, if you really think stuff is fake, go back and look at Boston Dynamic videos from a year or 2 years ago. They were already doing stuff that felt really interesting. The thing that's different about the Unitree videos that they're showing now is that they're taking, like we've talked about on the show before, simulated training and then putting it into the robot. So when it looks like it's fluidly dancing, yeah, it's not like coming up with this dance on its own. There was a dance that it trained on, so it's really good at it. Kevin, the other thing we have to talk about in the robotics world is this insane video from Clone Robotics, which to me is the opposite of what the Unitree video. The Unitree video, you're like, oh, this is cool. I feel good. The Clone Robotics video makes me feel like we are down a dark path. So just to describe this video, if you're listening.
Everything about this video is wrong. Everything.
So Clone Robotics is the company that makes those very creepy, like skin-looking robots, first and foremost. So you know that
musculoskeletal androids.
Yes. So in this instance, they've hung the robot so that its feet are just barely off the floor.
It's dangling.
And it's dangling and just kind of like twitching. I just want to know, Clone Robotics, what made you think this was the video to put out? So
also, listen to this. If you can hear this, I don't know if listen to this.
Oh, is that the sound? Okay, sorry.
This is the sound that they chose to play behind the unveiling of the first bipedal
like
musculoskeletal android. Yeah, it's a Skynet heartbeat as this poor, helpless Westworld, like caked in white robot helplessly dangles above the cement. It is creepy.
So
why did they do that? Why did they play
companies,
Harvey the Wonder Hamster or some happy like MIDI?
Exactly. We are big fans of the Unitree social team and not such big fans of the Clone Robotics social team. Clone Robotics, come on, let's do something fun with this device. I already
put
decided
some
to make it
yakety
creepy
sax
by
behind
making
it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Will, can we do that? Let's see what it looks like with the yakety sax. Maybe it'll be more entertaining.
As it just flails about.
Still
We got an update. We got an update.
Kevin.
Sorry, Gavin,
okay,
we got
good.
an
What do
update. We got an update from Convergence. Here we go. It finished. It says, here are 5 compelling opening lines and 1 shocking fact about Guy Fieri that you can use in your outreach. Your unique blend of rowdy entertainment and genuine food appreciation has not only entertained but also educated millions about the diversity of American cuisine.
Fair. That's fair. I would agree with that. It's a little bland in terms. I wouldn't say it that way. I would just throw a couple, donkey sauces in there at some point.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so there. Your role in raising over $20 million for restaurant workers during the pandemic showcases your impact beyond the kitchen.
Yeah, true. I mean, that was big. I mean, Guy did a lot.
But is that
during
an
the
opening
pandemic.
line?
No, probably not.
No, that's a cool factoid. It's an interesting.
Yeah,
it's an interesting research fact. Okay, shocking fact. Despite your penchant for bold American flavors, your culinary journey started with a love of French cuisine during your high school exchange in Chantilly, France.
Hey, that's pretty good. If that is now, the question is it true? Because yeah, that's pretty good. What if we could bring out like the menu that he made from France in high school and be like, Guy, what is this? Tell us what this is. And he'd be like, blah, blah. I don't know how you found that, but it's crazy. I have made donkey sauce was actually Le Donkey sauce in France the first time. That's where it all started. You guys are amazing. So anyway, not bad. That part was pretty good. Again, if it's real, should we double check that? Let's just do a double check. Like
it says during now this is according to Gemini, but it's pulling from his Wikipedia that Guy studied abroad in France as an exchange student during his junior year of high school. Again, if you search like Guy Fieri High School, like Gemini is surfacing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But
Kevin, we didn't have to do it. We got to talk about other things while it did it for us. That's the key.
Right. We just had to go sign up, give it the task, make sure it was operating, and then go off and do something else. You're right, Gavin. It's basically the same. So let's get back to these weird robots that are dangling and dancing, right? Those are the 2 modes that we've got right now. Dangling and dancing. But soon we will also unlock destruction, Gavin, because I have to shout out the Shawn Ryan show interview with Palmer Luckey. I listened to all 3 and some odd hours.
Oh, wow. It's that long.
It is long. It is winding. I was captivated by it. I'm a Palmer Luckey fanboy.
Yeah, you are a pretty big fan.
So Palmer is the Wunderkid that developed Oculus in his garage and recruited John Carmack and eventually sold Oculus to Meta and was unceremoniously ousted from Meta or Facebook at the time, something he goes in depth on quite a bit. But then he started Anduril Industries, which is a defense company, essentially making smart weapons and AI-powered systems for our military that will eventually trickle down someday, potentially into civilian devices as well. So this 3-hour interview, I feel like Stefan from SNL. It has everything, Gavin. It's got loitering munitions. It's got AI-powered Marines. It's got exoskeletons. It has neurolattice discussions. But Palmer's bet years back was that AI was going to disrupt a lot of things, including defense and
the defense industry, which is a big one, right? Like there's a ton of money. I mean, people understand this, I think, better now, but there's a ton of money made, wasted, and spent in the defense industry. Yes. And Palmer really said, like, I think I can make this better.
Yeah. And, you know, the pitch, which he mentioned several times, was we can save taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars by our company making tens of billions. And that's a good business and a good value prop. And so he's a fascinating, if not for some polarizing figure in the artificial intelligence and tech space in general. But I mean, the interview, I think, is just a phenomenal deep dive into his brain. You're going to hear things like exoskeleton suits, which are, right now bolted onto Palmer's legs and allowing him to run like sub 8-minute miles because they're enhancing his muscle movements. But talking about wiring those into...
And to be clear on that, Kevin, he's actually using these right now, right? In the interview, he talks about the idea that like he's not like in that great a shape, but the fact that he put these exoskeleton legs on allowed him to run an 8-minute mile. That feels like future stuff, but it's actually in work there.
Yeah, thank you, Gab. Yeah, no, it's they're building prototypes and iterating fast. And in the future, that could be a device that lets you lift thousands of pounds of weight or run miles without being exhausted. It's just going to amplify your
played
muscle
Mech
movements.
Warrior. I know what this is all about. This is like we're moving towards Mech Warrior, or
That's right.
What is the kaijus? We're going to giant kaiju robots.
That's right. Yeah. And, he also talks about, I think it was IVARS is the acronym, but basically the collaboration between Anduril and Microsoft and the Department of Defense, where they're building the visor of the future, where what you see, Gavin, can be piped to my headset as well. And I can have access to an entire visual spectrum, and I can identify threats because I can even use bounced radio frequencies to kind of see through walls and see what's like. I'm doing it a terrible, terrible disservice by trying to grossly distill 3 hours into oh my God, you got to catch this. But even discussions on like the loitering munitions, where they've got essentially rockets or missiles that can fly around a target and wait and use visual systems to confirm, oh, that is the person and or thing that I need to go and eliminate. They can just kind of go and hang out and then go and target something.
And one of the cool things you can do with AI powered missiles is send them into an area and then have them do precision targeting, collaborating with each other, even if you don't have a person there who's, let's say, steering a coded laser target designator. Like in the past, you would have needed somebody to say, like, get out there, shine a laser at the thing you want it to go after, and then it goes after that laser dot. Well, what if instead you can have a missile show up somewhere and say, oh, that's a Li Yang destroyer. I know that the engine room is right there. And I know that the thinnest part of the deck is right there. If I approach it this angle and this speed from this direction, I can punch through the engine room and destroy engine 1. And if that's successful, another one's going to come in behind me from the other side and destroy engine 2. If I miss I don't make it through, I'm going to have it instead go for engine 1. And then
if you're not getting the video, he's saying all this in his trademark Hawaiian shirt, his patented Hawaiian shirt, while holding a gummy bear. He's got an orange gummy bear in his hand as he pontificates about future missiles. But like, he's building it. They're doing this stuff.
No, and listen, we've talked about Palmer on the show before, and obviously what he's built and what he's done is pretty incredible. There is like the other side of this that is very scary to hear, right? When you compare it to the idea of like what we talk about, these chatbots and all this stuff that's going to allow you to do these really interesting stuff. One of the things that's kind of scary about this, obviously, is that a huge part of AI in general is building up AI armies, right? And the longest, scariest part of this is like, that is the story of the Terminator, which we're not going to get into because hopefully we don't get there. But this is the thing where, like, Anduril is a company that's really based on the idea that he's building up this kind of like large munitions for the Americans to specifically defend against China. And one of the things he also said in this, which I thought was really interesting, was the idea that in China, he talks about the idea of like what their naval capacity is. And like, this is somebody who's like thought a lot about what China is like. Yeah. And he said like the shipbuilding capacity of China is 350x times that of America. And that every Chinese ship that's built, even if it's a ferry that's used to bring people back and forth, is built to military specs. And so there is this thing where like, we talk about Chinese models and we talk about American models and this kind of fight that's going back and forth. Palmer and other people in the world, specifically Palantir and the other defense companies, are really thinking about this as a actual fight. And that is something that like doesn't sink in enough, I think, with Americans. But they're gearing up for the next version of warfare. And it's scary, but also fascinating to watch at the same time.
I'm glad he's on our side, is what I'll say.
Yes.
Like, no matter what your thoughts are,
sure.
you know, about AI being used for, for defense or even offense, like, glad he's on our side. It's a fascinating interview. He also talks about remote operated versus AI operated, like bipedal robots. And he makes a very good case for like these frontline artillery systems that require 2 or 3 humans to go and load shells and aim and fire. And those are human lives that are very often lost because they're on the front lines. Yeah. They're a very juicy target for your enemy. And it's like, well, what if that could be one robot that is good at pulling levers, lifting heavy thing, loading it in? It might not be as nimble and capable as a human, but you'd rather have 3 of those being blown up on the front line. So, I mean, it's very serious, very, very entertaining, especially considering how serious the topic matter is. I went back to it 3 or 4 times and just kept listening and listening. So
maybe in the future, we'll just have a big open field where we can send our robots and they can send their robots so that nobody actually has to die. That would be amazing.
How about just okay, everybody pile up your money and whoever's money is in the biggest pile, you win. And we'll set it on fire. Both sides have to set their money on fire, but it's like a Mr. Beast challenge. It's a Mr. Beast thing. Who's going to build the biggest money period? Yeah, who's going to build the biggest money pyramid? And it's like, all right, you win.
All right, we should move on to something that's a little bit more lighthearted, but still really interesting. Microsoft has just introduced a new MUSE game AI model. Now, this is in research, but it is very interesting. There was an article in Nature that was just published. Satya Nadella talked about it today. And basically what this is their version of a world model that's trained on video games, specifically for making video games. It's called WHAM. It is the WHAM model, which stands for World and Human Action Model. And they worked on this with Ninja Theory, which is pretty cool. Like Ninja Theory is a pretty big game dev that's been around for a while. And what's really cool about this, Kev, is they've got some really interesting videos. This was specifically around one of Ninja Theory's games, but this is, again, the idea. We saw this in Minecraft. We saw this. Google Game Gen has done it. Is AI generated video games, meaning that this is not pre-programmed, but that you create an AI model that allows you to play within. And what I thought was really interesting about this, Kevin, is like, this is Xbox Studios working on this, right? So this is actual people who make video games, including Ninja Theory. A lot of people have talked about some version of this as the future of a world building game, or, imagine a sandbox game in the future, which generates itself in real time. Again, not like, it's something we have seen a couple times before, but the fact that it's Microsoft doing it within Xbox feels like a step forward.
Yeah, and this is like not only letting the AI apparently like control the player so it can learn, but you as a developer, like one of the demos they have is clicking and dragging an asset from like a generative panel into the world, and boom, magically the object appears, and then the AI or the player can interact with it. Don't know what is like proof of concept or glossy graphics, but it's very clear that from asset creation to physics to gameplay loops, like AI is going to inform all of the things.
Yeah. And I think, again, this is Satya Nadella himself tweeting this out, along with a very fascinating quantum computing advancement they made today, but like, which you can go read about, and you should. We don't have time to get into here, but like Microsoft is definitely making, what happened? What's going on?
Gavin, hot off the presses, Gavin. Surprise. This is new to you. This wasn't in the rundown. Okay. This happened organically. If I could spend $10,000 on Amazon products for the host of the AI for Humans podcast, what big purchases would they appreciate the most? Give me highly reviewed products and reasoning. This, Gavin, was the surprise task that I gave Convergence and their hot off the shelf Proxy AI agent. Would you like to hear some of their results after it had spent minutes exploring product recommendations for the AI for Humans hosts?
So these are for pretty expensive purchases from Amazon, essentially.
Well, look, we know our audience. We call them the sugar daddies.
We'll put a gift link up for these.
The Sugar Squad. Yes. This is shout outs to the Sugar Squad on our Patreon, which is real. Yeah. We have a tip jar, which is a Patreon. You can give us $5 a month. But I figured someone out there wants to be a whale, Gavin. Someone wants to spend 10 grand on us. Here are some, quote, highly reviewed Amazon products that the hosts of the AI for Humans podcast might appreciate. Number 1. Instant Pot Duo Plus, coming in at $49.95.
Okay.
This versatile cooking gadget can replace 9 common kitchen appliances and is perfect for hosts who enjoy quick and easy meal prep.
Okay. Starting off strong.
Number 2, carbonated bubble clay mask at $8.65.
Oh my God. Oh Lord. So basically what it did is it found like highly reviewed products, didn't take us into account at all.
Not at all.
Also not the $10,000 limit either. Is there any that's
not even
expensive?
close. No, the most expensive item is the portable espresso maker at $54. And I can see that it did basic Google searches again. And it says, one of the BuzzFeed articles is 69 things you can get on Amazon that you should just own already.
Well, this is the problem with AI agents in general, is that I still think there's a layer, and people have talked about this, about agents talking to agents to give them better information, because the actual web is still garbaged up with stuff like that BuzzFeed article. But Kev, here's another, this is interesting. This transitions us into this. Speaking of what, AI agents early days were supposed to look like, Humane, the AI pin that would wear in your shirt and pull your shirt down because it was so heavy and raised, I think, $200 million, has been sold to HP for $116 million, which is way less than the investment money was raised. And people are saying mostly for their talent, meaning that they're engineers. This pin that was like a big story and kind of almost immediately flopped as a product has now kind of gone dark. In fact, there's the funniest thing I saw in here was one of the things they mentioned in the announcement on their website is, can I still use my AI pin for offline features? Because it is no longer connected to the cloud. Yeah. So, and their answer is yes. After February 28th, 2025, AI pin will still allow for offline features like battery level, etc. So if you have an AI pin, you paid $700 for an AI pin, you will still be able to check your battery level, which is very exciting.
I wonder if even getting the time of day is going to work in an offline mode, because it probably needs a cellular modem for that.
I feel like you're right, Kevin. I think the big thing here is, like, even they had a T-Mobile deal that was set up. The long story short is this company was very early. They promised a lot of stuff. This came out around the same time as the Rabbit R1, which went through a similar sort of thing. That still exists and is still being updated. I think that in general, the AI device conversation just was way too early to come out when it did. Like, this was just not ready. There are a lot of AI devices in the works. We know that Sam Altman and Johnny Ive are working on some version of an AI device or a phone that's supposed to replace the iPhone. So that might come later. But Kev, this is a good chance for us to maybe just do a little pour one out song for Humane.
Well, yeah, let's take a second, Gavin, along with our audience, and just pour one out for the Humane AI Pin.
So hard to say goodbye, but today we must pour one out for Humane, the AI Pin. Humane, you'll break again.
All right, everybody, it is time to go through some of the stuff that we love that you made or other people made on the internet using AI this week. It's time for AI. See what you did there.
Sometimes you're scrolling without a care, then suddenly you stop and shout.
Very fast, Kevin. The first thing I want to talk about is a very dumb post from Reddit where this person started making funny yearbook pages using kids' faces. This is just a fun way of showing how AI can still be broken in a fun way. This is a great, you see this guy's image, which is like all these kids. There's one weird kid in the middle with these giant ears and kind of hairy face. So I went and did this myself. The prompt the guy used was funny yearbook page with odd children names. It doesn't do amazingly, but you do get some funny results. So anyway, this is just a fun AI prompt to try with your favorite image model.
I mean, this is if someone made a bizarre like AI AI Guess Who game.
Yes,
I would
exactly.
love this because it's way more innovative. But I love that in between like seemingly normal but kind of bizarre children, there are just horrible monsters, like creepy alien gremlins, like and weird ones with mustaches. Like it's delightful, and your swing at it is great too. It's very fun. Not necessarily a Reddit post, but instead like a shocking scientific leap potentially. There is a thought to action model, Gavin, that uses MEGs or EEGs, basically reading your brain activity. They have a model that can predict with like 80% accuracy in near real time what it is you're about to go type. So you think about typing the thing and out comes the text. And this could be a brave new way that when we talk about, you know, extended reality or augmented reality, having glasses on that are displaying the future, rather than having to speak things into existence. If you're in a place where you can't, you might be able to just think the text input that you want to see on the screen, and there it appears. Yeah.
So this is, to be clear, this is Meta publishing research papers. And, you know, Meta has like so many crazy scientists working there. And sometimes this stuff doesn't get enough shout out, but their paper is really interesting because basically this is, you know, Elon's been working on the brain interface Neuralink for a while. But what they're trying to say here is that you may not need to have an implant in your brain, but that you could actually use an EEG device, something that can read your head, or maybe a giant thing on your head. Like I think maybe in the future, one of these giant things on our heads, like electronic afros that will allow us to read our brains. The funniest thing to me, Kevin, is in this video and in the paper, they have this person sitting in what looks like just this giant mind reading chair, which is like the weirdest looking device, but it kind of is like what Professor X would use, like to kind of read the world at large. So maybe this is the world we're getting into. Maybe we're going to get into just giant mind reading devices, and we'll all be able to read each other's minds all the time.
Put me in my digital cocoon and let me think. All of
Deep
my
thinking,
spicy
your big
chats.
brain. You want big brain?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so keep going here. There was a very cool post from somebody named Sanamatic, and Sanamatic is an ex-user, and this was just a good example of showing the kind of AI art haters out there what a real artist can do in a short period of time using AI tools. And now I don't know exactly what tool this guy was using. It looks a lot like what Kriya does as an image to image model, but basically this was an artist who made like a very kind of rough animatic looking design of two people in a spaceship, didn't put a crazy amount of details in, then put it through an image model, and then animated it with a video model. And you just see the quality of what this person made to start with, because it's clear this person is an artist, immediately transformed into a scene from a film. And I just thought, Kev, this is like the perfect thing to show people who are like, oh, AI is not art, or AI isn't useful for artists. Like, this is the exact pipeline of how AI is useful for artists and what it will do to the Hollywood pipeline in general.
Yeah, please check out the show notes if you're getting the audio only and see it. It's a quick little video snippet, but it's really inspiring for that exact pipeline that Gavin is talking about. And I think similarly, Cliff Bleszinski, historic game designer from
friend of ours. He's a guy we know both personally. Good guy.
Yeah. Cliff is great, and you know, everything from Jazz Jackrabbit to Unreal Tournament to, of course, Gears of War, Fortnite. Even he had his hands in all of the things. He's taken quite a break from game design, but he's been dipping a toe back in the waters, and he shared a Dropbox with his on his Twitter for a game that he had created called Panic Garden. And what's great is, like, if you have any interest whatsoever in game or game design, it's fascinating to go through and see the way the documents are written up, the way he describes the world, the mechanics, the characters. But he also shares Midjourney folders where he is using AI art to develop proof of concepts. And it's fascinating, Gavin, because I mean, it's just great peek inside of the creative process on that side of things, but also because, like, the gaming community specifically has been one of those very vocal opponents to AI touching anything. And yet here, I think because it is such a notable game designer saying, look, I'm using these tools to try to get my vision across, people seem to be a little bit more accepting of the fact that there's AI involved in this pipeline. And honestly, I think they should be.
And honestly, conceptual art is a great use case for AI. Now, some people are always going to have the hate on AI. They're not going to use it at all. But, like, it does allow you to make these generations very fast. And to talk about Sanamatic's work that we just saw, even that would be a really interesting use case for an artist, right? So that you could take this kind of like basic shape or kind of look of what you wanted and then make the screenshots from that. You know, Cliff is using Midjourney straightforward, but like there's all sorts of cool AI tools to be able to do. So that was very awesome. Finally, we have what I think is a really fun real world use case of robotics. This is a video that features Stephen Curry from the Golden State Warriors actually using a robot to return basketballs to him. And if you're not watching the video, what's interesting about this is the robot kind of reminds me of those robots that Amazon has designed for their warehouse. It's not humanoid. It's literally a basket that moves around on the floor to find where the ball is going to go and then spits the next ball out at him. This is the kind of functional robotics that I think are really useful in the real world, and we're going to see a lot more of.
It's such a weird looking little robot, but it makes sense. And in the background, I don't know if you noticed some Boston Dynamics, like robot walking dogs.
No, I didn't see that. No, that's interesting. Yeah.
There's some out of focus dogs like prowling around in this Oracle branded gymnasium. So there's a lot going on in the video, but it's clear. It's interesting use case of robotics. But like the moment I saw it, I was like, Toyota is saying, hold my beer, because if you look at the Guinness World Records account, they tweeted out a while ago, this was back in December, but Toyota made a basketball shooting robot that I have been fascinated with since the early prototypes. BasketBot sinks the world's largest free throw. So while we've got a little Fisher Price, it looks like modeled after like Connect 5 colors moving about to return you a ball, Toyota's got the full jump shot happening. Like Toyota's on fire.
Each of these is a step closer to real life cyberball, which I cannot wait for. I've said that a bajillion times, but I cannot wait for the robot sports to start. Kevin, speaking of robot sports, another great sport would be to follow our newsletter. You should definitely spend some time looking at our newsletter. We have a newsletter that comes out every Tuesday morning where we focus on whatever the biggest thing that day is, or sometimes it's creative tools. We dive into it. Please subscribe. It's a very easy thing to go find. You can find the link at aiforhumans.show, our website. It grows as much as our other stuff is growing, which is very cool. It means people are liking it. So go check it out. So Kev, when it comes to what we did with AI this week, I spent some time using still my favorite AI video tool, VO2, which is Google's AI video tool, but they have now released it for the public in the YouTube Shorts generation app, which is actually in your YouTube app. So in YouTube, you can now, if you're in the YouTube mobile app, you can now develop these videos in there. It's not the greatest example of how to work with AI video. So basically you go into the YouTube app and you push the plus button as if you're going to shoot an original short in there, which you can do. And instead of selecting one of the videos you already have on your phone, you push the empty button. And what then comes up is a interface for a video interface. So you can then enter into any, create a prompt for any video, and it's using VO2, a turbo model, not the full model that we've had access to that's not out in the world, but a turbo model to create these videos. And I made this little small video, which was like a storytelling video of like what it would look like if a Terminator robot, our kind of mascot, got discovered for a movie and then got put into a movie. And that was fun. It was, well, I should say this. It wasn't exactly fun because the VO model is fine, but working within the YouTube app to edit anything is an absolute nightmare. And it really made it difficult to do. I hope they increase the ability for people to use this. But right now, if you're out there, open your YouTube app, you can go in and you can play with VO2 or a version of their VO2 model, and it is very capable. It will be frustrating what it will and won't let you discover or create, because there are many times like I wasn't able to generate something with a human in it. There were other times where it wouldn't return something. You'll see it in this video that I made. There's a couple still shots of people on stage. That's because I was able to get a still image of two people on stage at an award show, but I was not able to generate a video of that for some reason. So there's all these weird restrictions on it, but it is a cutting edge AI model that is now available to the public.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that the hurdles that you're talking about having to leap are not an issue with the AI model itself. It's a user interface problem. So I'm sure that at some point they will iron that out or pay to win. But yeah, people should go and try it out, right? It's free.
It's free. I mean, you can use it if you have a YouTube account. Anybody can use it right now. And I think ostensibly they're trying to get people to use this to kind of spread, make YouTube Shorts stronger and do stuff in YouTube Shorts. It's not like you really only get like a 5-second output, and like you can't really control you basically are first asked to generate the image. So it's very much like VO2 where it's image to video. You have to first make an image and then you actually make that animated. It's not the greatest control in the world, but it is free and you can do it right now.
So Gavin, what are our key takeaways for the week as we look at this is our Springer-esque final thought. What do we leave the dear viewer or listener with other than like, subscribe, and comment and 5-star review?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question, Kevin.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye, everybody. We'll see y'all next time.